Okay, in this video what I'm going to be doing is basically showing you how to build a version of Firefox for Windows. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it allows you to strip out a load of things from it, and also you can add some optimizations as well to hopefully help to do your part in saving the environment, so that you don't have like a piece of bloated software which is using more CPU than it should, and is also using the CPU more efficiently as well. Right, so if you want to follow along with this, the first thing you should do is just go onto the internet, and then if you go to my site, it's macpczone.co.uk, and then if you click on applications used, and in there you'll see the link for building Firefox for Windows. So if you click on that, and yeah, the video is not there at the moment because it'll be this one you'll see there. And basically what it'll have the links on there that you need in order to be able to build the basically the Firefox, because the one thing you need is there's a lot of dependencies. And so the first thing we have to do is to get the community edition of Visual Studio. So the version I'm using now is 2019, and I know this one works because I actually did a test build before. So I'm not, because one thing I've worked out, when you're doing anything with related to Microsoft, you definitely want to test it out first so that you don't get caught out. So what this does, this just runs a little, installs like a little stub installer, and that actually pulls down the software that you need. So this is just the installer, and actually that's one thing I forgot. Yeah, you actually need certain. Well, actually, I'll show you what they are. Hopefully, I can still remember what the prerequisites are. Right. So the installers, this initial installer is finished. So now, basically, what you have to choose in here is you have to choose the desktop development with C++, and to save a bit of time, if you scroll down here, make sure you're choosing at least this Windows SDK, the 10017, and then also this C++ MFC v142, and then the other thing you need to put in is game development, and it's game development with C++. I presume that's for the sound. And if you read the build instructions at Mozilla, they will mention some other things, but because see, it's already selected, so you don't have to, their instructions say to come into here, but as long as you tick them here, they will show up in the right place. So basically, once you've selected them, you just click on install, and then this will now take a while, so obviously I'll speed this bit up. And you probably noticed there was a bit of a jump there, because what happened is the virtual machine crashed, so rather than starting from the beginning, I just decided to continue it, and I finished the installation just to check that it stopped. Hopefully it won't crash anymore. Right, so basically now when you get to here, just do maybe later here, because you don't need to actually sign up for anything for it to work. And I know that's the case because when I did it before, I just ignored that part and it was fine. So what you do is just just continue. So what you want to do is just run it once. And so once it's been run once, that should set the things up in the system, and then now you can just exit. Right, so now next thing we need is need the Visual C 2008 Express. Okay, so that'll just run through its installation. Obviously, you don't bother sending anything to Microsoft. They're not going to do anything useful with it anyway. And you don't want, obviously, Microsoft to be giving you their adverts, so skip that. Then just select everything, and then just continue with the installation. Okay, so that's finished, and since it isn't going to take us 30 days to compile Firefox, then you can just ignore this part. And so we exit out of that. And so now, next thing we need is the Visual C redistributable. I mean, admittedly, I don't know what half of these items are for, but I definitely, well, that's the thing. When I tried to build it and I missed some of them out, it actually wouldn't build it. You get an error. So basically, all of the things that I'm installing here, these are all the ones I needed in order for the errors to stop, basically. So that's installed. So now, see, we've already installed Visual C twice. So now we have to install Visual C again for some reason. And that's one of the classic things about working with Microsoft software, is you just seem to have to install stuff over and over again. Because you think, why can't they just use the other compiler? Why do you have to have yet another one? Yeah, but anyway, this one seems to be very, very small. Because actually normally it downloads quicker than this, but sometimes the internet slows down. Okay, so now just run that. Okay, so that's finished. It doesn't even tell you it's finished, but just make sure that the installer has disappeared. So now, finally, we need the special Mozilla build package, and this basically installs like their own version of it's like a Sigwin for Mozilla. Right. So what this does is this component gives you like a Unix-like shell to actually do the build, because it seems you just can't get like the right components from Windows itself or Visual Studio, which can like put everything together. Because the one thing you notice about Firefox, it isn't just a bunch of C++ files. There's loads of other files that need to be like stuck together as well to give you the final product. And so you need all these extra tools, sort of Unix-based tools, to actually do that part of the build process. Okay, so you run that. thing is, you notice with all these adverts behind, they keep telling you about this product, that product, but notice it doesn't tell you what the price is. Because they know that if people saw the price, they'd just run away. Because Microsoft expects you to pay a lot for their, like, bug-filled software, etc. And you can't really expect their laptops to be any better. But since the majority of people use Windows, that's why you have to put up with it. Okay, so that's finished. So now we get to the main part of the operation. So if you look on the Mozilla site, when it tells you how to build Windows, what they'll say is that you should use the Mercurial, which is the HG, to pull the latest copy. But what you'll find is that pull takes a long time. So what I actually do is there's another option where you can actually download the repository as a compressed ZSTD file. And the name's a bit unfortunate because we know what STD means, but right, and so these bundles, these are actually copies of the actual Mozilla repositories for the different ones that you can get. And one thing I found out is that even though you've got older versions like these older ESR editions, basically if you try and build them, you're just wasting your time, because Mozilla have some secret way of building it using the older version of the tools. If you try and follow their instructions with the old one, it'll actually download a newer version of the Rust compiler, and it will actually just come out with errors. So the only one you can actually use which works is this last one, which is a release, because then this release one is the latest version of Firefox, and obviously the latest version of the Rust compiler will work with this one because it's what Mozilla used to build it. So all these are kind of like a waste of time now. But I think maybe if you use a version that doesn't use Rust, like I think 52 or 45, it might work. But 60 definitely doesn't. I tried that. It didn't, it's just a waste of time. So this one, I've already downloaded it. So this is what this file is here. So basically, if you select this one here, because that's the smallest one, then download it so that it goes onto your desktop, and it's like 1.6 gigs. So it's going to take a while to download if you've got a slow internet, but it's actually going to be quicker than cloning it. So once you've downloaded this big file, make sure it's this release one, then what you do is now we continue on. And there is one stage I forgot to put on here. I have to try and remember to put it in, which is that you basically have to go into where the Cygwin tools are installed, and it's in here, Mozilla build, and then this start shell. Best thing you can do is hold Control and then just drag it. Control and Shift, and then create a link of it on the desktop. Because it just comes in handy for because you have to run it like more than once to do the build. So these commands that you see here, these all have to be run inside this shell. Okay, so just to save time, select down to here. Because this path isn't actually correct, because I don't actually know where you're going to have the bundle located, so we have to do it manually. It's funny, I never had to do that before. Okay, I'm not sure why. It worked previously when I was using VNC, but for some reason it doesn't seem to work properly. Right, so if you just edit and you just paste them in, and then so it's done that. So the important bit is this HG init, because if you don't do this, then the next command won't actually work. So you have to make sure that you're inside Mozilla release, and then what you do is now you just have to, let's get rid of that. So now you do this HG unbundle, and then it's the path to this file, and you have to type in a bit funny, so you have to type /c/user and whatever username you have, and then it's the desktop, and then it's the, oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is that I renamed this to put Mozilla release at the beginning, just so I can identify it, because when you actually download it, if you look at the name, it's just actually a bunch of numbers. So I mean, I'll show you anyway. So if you click on to download it, see, it's just this long list of numbers, so you better off renaming it so that you don't get confused, and that you actually know which file you're trying to find when you go through doing this on the command line. And as you can see, I use tab to complete each step just to save having to type the whole thing in, because I've seen some people actually typing stuff in manually, and I think this name will take too long to type. Right, so now we type the HG unbundle, and then basically this is going to take a little bit of time. Okay, so there's two unfortunate things about this Mercurial. Is A, it looks like it's single threaded, and B, it's written in Python. So that's why, unfortunately, this isn't going to, even if you've got a super fast machine, it's only going to use one core. But it seems like Mercurial, they don't really care. As long as they get to write their code and have a good time, then they don't have to worry about people having to sit there and waiting for that single thread to do its job. Okay, so as you can see, that's finally finished, and you notice that there's a little bit of sort of some errors up the top there, because I think the download had become corrupted from when the virtual machine crashed one time, and so I just had to copy it again from where I had it stored. Right, so so now we can continue with this, and so now, oh yeah, before we do this, next thing we have to do is, if you actually go to the bottom of this this article, you see there's this file here, this zip file here. So basically, if you just download that and then just save it, and what it'll do is it'll produce a zip file. And what we need to do now is, there's two files in there that we're going to need. So if you open that, so this HGRC file, basically this needs to be copied into the same place where we've just extracted the repository. So if you go into the Mozilla release, you notice there's nothing in here except this HG directory. And then what you do is this HGRC file, just copy that in. And what's in it, it's just pretty straightforward. It's Yeah, it's just a text file. And all it is, it just has a link to the repository. Alright, looks like I used the wrong one. Okay. Yeah, so that should say Mozilla release. Basically, you should always check that it's got the right name, and the easy way you know what the name is that if you go to the here, see this name here, see where it's got releases, Mozilla-release. That has to be the same as this part here. So it's releases, so it should be Mozilla-release. I'll hopefully I'll remember to update the yeah, so just save that. So I'll have to remember to update that zip file. And so now now that we've copied that in there, what you can do is to perform the next command, which is so this hg pull. Yeah, so it seems if you're going to run this, you're better off running it from a VNC session, because for some reason the copy and paste works of a VNC, which is strange. And so now it's saying that you just need to do the HG update. Okay, so now this HG update, this is where it takes the files which are in the repository and actually puts them in place inside the directory, the actual Mozilla release directory. So what you find after this is it'll actually be full of so if you go back, yes, it'll just take a little time. So it's empty at the moment. And see, these are just some changes that have gone in since I downloaded this bundle, because I think when the bundle I downloaded is 62.02. Sorry, I think it might be 02. But then when I compiled it, it turned into 03. So I think they did some bug fixes. So yeah, so you can see here, it's now extracting the files into the repository. Yeah, it looks like that's going to take a while, because yeah, again, it's good old Python single thread. These Python programmers, and of course you can only use one core, so well, it seems to be using half of 2 cores, which is impressive. I suppose only Python could do that. Of course, if this was written in C, then it would just fly along, but you know, some people love their Python, isn't it? Okay, so that's finished. So now the next thing we have to do is basically we have to bootstrap the installation. And so we just use this command. So what this does, this just downloads the... Alright, and then you have to make sure to choose number 2, because what happens is, oh, actually, yeah, I keep doing things, because I have to just remember what I did, because, so, now, before you do the bootstrap, this is the point at which you need the second, file. So now, if we go to, yeah, so basically in here we've got this mozconfig file. That's what we have to do, is you have to copy it into the build directory. So what this is the file which is going to do the chopping up, basically. So you're going to get rid of all of the sort of bloat that Mozilla's put in there and slice it out of the resulting binary. And so just check that. And so basically these are the options that I use. And admittedly I commented out the PGO because I might try that later, see if that makes any difference. But basically the ones commented out, some of them don't work, and some of them really sort of don't make any difference. Well, not that I know of. So I suppose I should have deleted the ones that didn't work, but basically if you leave it as this is, and this is another important thing, is that this redis, what happens, this is if you want to create a package which can run on another machine, because it includes the C++ redistributable, and basically it has to point to the location of where the Visual Studio is installed, and there's a specific directory, which is this one, which is sort of deep in there. And basically this will work for this particular version of the Visual Studio. So as long as you're using 2019, the only thing you have to do is make sure that this number is correct. So the way you do that is just go into so let's see, so C, it's program file, so it's still 32-bit for some reason. Yes, it's Visual Studio 2019 Community Visual C Redist MSVC. So as long as this, you gotta make sure this number is the same, because this number can change. If at some point they do a big update, like, I don't know, a service release 2 or something like that, then it's possible this number will be different, and so you need to change this number to match. Because in here, you've got this 64-bit, and then these are the... Yes, these shouldn't change. This number, well, this number can change. I think it needs to be a different version for this number to change. So an update shouldn't change this particular one, but in here are just some DLLs that basically go with the need to be installed with the Mozilla in order for it to work. Alright, so basically this is the... Oh yeah, another thing I just remembered is I tried to... Yeah, this FP fast, I'll have to remove that from... I'll re-upload it with the... Because when I added FP fast for some reason... No, that's right, it won't... SQLite actually doesn't compile with it. So I'll fix the... hopefully I remember to fix this mozconfig in the one I upload, and you should find that FP fast is missing, because if you leave this on, SQLite won't compile and it will just error out. So I'm going to leave it at this O2 one, because O2 is like the maximum optimization. and I'm just going to add these two in because they just there's some sort of extra optimizations you get when these options are removed, so that will give us just sort of like a little bit more speed than the than the default one that is shipped. Alright, so I'm just going to save that. Alright, so now that the mozconfig in is, now we can run this, and there's a reason you have to put this mozconfig in before you run the bootstrap, and what will happen is it'll put things into the wrong object directory, and then you get an error during the build. So basically in this cron we want number 2, because if you do number 1, then that mozconfig that I just showed you doesn't actually work for number 1, because it doesn't actually compile the files, it just downloads them as binaries. But of course you can't compile a binary, so if you're using a mozconfig you have to use number 2, or you might be able to get, well, I don't know, you might be able to get away, well, these are for Android, so 2 is the only one that you can choose. Alright, so now it's just going to update Mercurial to a later version. But of course it's still going to be written in Python, so it's still going to be slow. Alright, so now it's going to, now is where it's going to download and install the Rust. And notice that version 1.35, basically that will not build the older version of Firefox. You just get some funny error about documentation. So rather than waste your time, you forcibly have to just use the latest version, or download the latest version, the release one, and just don't waste time trying to compile one of the older ones. But like I say, if it's a version which doesn't have Rust, then it probably can build, but I just don't have the time to try it, because it does take doing these builds just does take a while. Right, so now yeah, so basically you want to create that directory, so you say 1 to that, but basically say no to this configuration wizard, because I ran it once and it just takes a long time, but then afterwards I didn't run it and the build still works. So basically just ignore it, and of course they want to spy on your build, so the answer to that obviously is no, so say no to spying. I mean, they say about making builds faster, but they're still going to be using Python, so it's still going to be slow anyway, so it's kind of a waste of time. Alright, so now, because some of the sort of binaries have been updated, the environment, so what they want to do is you just have to start the shell again, so you get the new environment with the new command. And so to do that, you just double click on this again, and then you go back into the Mozilla source and Mozilla release, and then basically to get everything going, you just type MACH and then build, and that's it. So literally once that is run, this now just does everything. And there's a way you can tell if the config is going to work, and you can actually leave it, is actually there's one other thing I was just going to do, is that if you're in a hurry, I don't know how much difference it makes, but you can actually, to speed up the disk operations, you can actually turn off the write cache. Only thing about this is if your machine crashes, the power goes, it'll corrupt some of your files, because I've actually had that happen. So you wouldn't normally do this on like your proper normal work machine. But it can come in handy to speed things up. Right, yeah, so when it gets to this part, where it says file already read, that means the configuration is finished and it's successful. And so now it's actually going to start doing the real build. So at this point, you've now installed everything correctly that's needed to actually do the build, because if you hadn't, you'd have got an error before now, and the errors all pop up during the bootstrap, and then you get a couple of errors will come up during this part. But once it starts doing this, then this is basically completely automatic from now to the end. And so you can just essentially leave it, and this is going to take, if your machine's a bit slow, it can take like a couple of hours. But one thing about this is the more cores you have, is the quicker it will run. So if you're on a virtual machine and you're doing this build, give it as many cores as it can without the Windows 7 crashing, because I tried to give it 4 cores and it crashed. So I had to basically just give it 2 plus a couple of hyperthreads. And so basically we'll just see how long this takes. Okay, so that's Firefox built, and you probably noticed that the screen's slightly different because I had to stop at the end of the build. So this is just a continuation where I'm in the virtual machine. I've just started it up again, but I just ran a Mac build again just to make sure it was still okay. So now once the Mac build is finished, the next thing you type is Mac run, like it says here. Yeah, so like it says there, and this is how you can find out if it actually works. And there you go. So okay, seems to be a problem there. This could well be a bug in Visual Studio, because when I tried to compile it with some other optimizations, it was crashing as well. And it was only last time I did build it, the only time I got it to work was by using removing the optimizations. Well, sorry, we're not removing it, but not using as much. So it looks as if Visual Studio is a bit buggy with some of the optimization options. So another build that worked is when I removed these ones. So the last build that worked, I had it like this. Yeah, where it's just O2, GW and GL. And I think everything... Alright, so let's try it as that then. So I'll try O2, GW and GL, and let's see if that will crash. So as you see, when you do a build to get rid of the directory, well, you're supposed to do mac clobber, but it seems it hasn't deleted everything. So if it hasn't, then the best thing is just get rid of the, just so you get a completely clean build, just get rid of this object directory, because basically everything ends up in here. So when you delete this, it completely removes all of the object files. Right, so they're all gone. So just run the build again. Okay, so that's finally finished. So let's see if this build works without the hey, okay. So there you have it. So that's conclusively shown that there must be a bug with this version of Visual Studio, and that basically if you use the optimizations, so let's just check that. So now we know, and I had to find out the hard way as well. So basically when you use the configuration, the Moz build, Moz config, sorry. Right, so definitely, so GR and GS, they're basically, there's a bug in them essentially, and it will cause the Firefox to crash when you start up. So I did try to compile it with the AVX stuff, but I'd included this as well, and the build that I did actually crashed. So maybe I'm going to try it with I'm going to try an Intel build with these, but now I know to remove these two flags because they seem to mess up Firefox for some reason. Well, that's good to know anyway. So basically there you go. So there's the test browser running, and it's just to make sure that it actually does work. It'd be a bit pointless if yeah, right. So that seems to be working fine. So yeah, so basically this article will be getting an update, and it will change from this blank screen that it's got at the moment. And of course I'm going to also be updating the this configuration zip as well. So what I'll do is I'll remove I don't know, yeah, so I'll remove these two parts, these two flags, because they seem to be causing a bug for some reason. And so if anyone wants to try using the other sort of flags, of course I haven't got an AVX2 chip yet, so I can't try that one to see if it works. But it'd be good if someone tried it just to see if it can speed things up. Okay, oh yeah, and so the last thing I just want to show is that now that you have the where is it? Yeah, so now you have that you've built it. If you want to sort of other people to check out your build to help to save the world, then the next thing you do is you type make package. Sorry, it's not make, is it? It's this Mac command. So package. And what that does is this builds a zip file. There is a way of making an executable one, but I can't remember. Oh, I think yeah, it's a slightly different command. All right, what I'll do is I'm not gonna. All Alright, let's make the executable one anyway, just to... I haven't actually done it myself before. So what I'll do is we'll see if... So this one will just make a zip file. And I don't know if the zip has got a... I mean, it's got that setup.exe in there. I'm not sure if this is it. Maybe the zip does contain the installer. I have to admit I haven't actually looked. But alright, what we'll do is when this is finished, hopefully it shouldn't take too long. Alright, so basically that's the release. Now, notice it doesn't actually tell you where it is, so you're going to have to use a bit of... I had to use a bit of guesswork to find the location, because what happens is whenever Mozilla builds, the files go into an object directory, and usually in there is a directory called dist, D-I-S-T. So any files which are to do with the installation is always inside dist. And then if we look in here, we find this, which is the zip file. So basically this zip file is the one that you'd send to other people if you want to sort of, want them to help you out with sort of saving the planet by, using their processes more efficiently. And if you want to know how to sort of produce the different types of builds, what you can do, I think you type help. Yeah, so I think it's... Yeah, so I don't think it's that. So I think it's just gonna have a quick look. Right, yeah, so I think it only creates a zip. So if you look what's in the zip, yeah, so it looks as if that is just a yeah, so that's just Firefox inside its own directory. So this is like the portable version. But I think what you'll find is that alright, well, yeah, so I'm not sure how you build an actual installer. Obviously there's a way of doing it, but They don't tell you here, but I'm sure that Mozilla have their secret way of doing it, like how they can do other things as well. So basically that's it. So if you yeah, so what you do is, so this particular zip, what you can do is if you just drag the Firefox out, and so that's the directory with the Firefox in, and if you just run it, and there it is. So it's as simple as that. Nice portable Firefox. I think this isn't fully portable in that what it does, it still writes into your home directory, so it will create like a profile. But basically the executable itself is portable. Yeah, so there we have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try that AVX build, and then in the next sort of videos I'm going to see if I can yeah, basically I'm going to be doing like a performance test of them to see if it's actually what difference in performance it makes when you use the compilation options. Alright, so thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one, and subscribe if you want to see any more, of the videos that I'm going to try to do. Okay, see you.